The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly before Captain Zaxthor's patrol fleet. His sleek, crystalline ships glided silently through the darkness, their advanced sensors scanning for any signs of activity in this unexplored sector. The Galactic Union had tasked them with mapping this region, though Zaxthor found it tedious. Nothing interesting ever happened in these abandoned corners of space. That was until today. Captain. Lieutenant Varix's voice crackled over the command center's communication system. We're detecting a large metallic object approximately 50,000 kilometers ahead. Zaxthor's four eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of mild interest. Debris from an asteroid mining operation, perhaps. No, sir. The shape is too uniform. It appears to be. Varix paused, double-checking the readings. A spacecraft of some kind. Now that was interesting. The captain straightened in his hover chair, his scale-covered skin shifting from its bored gray to an alert blue. Put it on the main display. The massive view screen flickered to life, and there it was, a dark shape floating against the star-filled backdrop. As they drew closer, the ship's true form became clear. It was massive, easily a kilometer in length, with a design that made Zaxthor's antenna twitch in disbelief. By the Ancient Ones, he muttered, "That's a human vessel." The bridge crew fell silent. Everyone had heard of humans, of course, the primitive species that had barely managed to achieve faster-than-light travel before disappearing from the galactic stage 2 centuries ago. Their ships were considered relics, remnants of a civilization that had reached too far, too fast. As they drew closer, Zaxthor could see the vessel's hull was marked with deep scars and battle damage. Ancient weapon impacts had left their traces, and portions of the outer armor were blackened from energy weapon strikes. Yet somehow, the ship's main structure remained intact. Scan for any active systems, Zaxthor ordered, more out of protocol than expectation. Nothing this old could possibly still be functioning. No power signatures detected, Captain, reported the science officer, Melora. She flicked through various scanning frequencies with her lower arms while her upper ones adjusted the sensor arrays. The ship appears to be completely dead. However, she paused, her eyes narrowing. I'm detecting some unusual alloy compositions in the hull. They don't match any known human designs from our historical database. Zaxthor moved closer to the view screen, studying the ancient warship. Its design was brutally functional. None of the elegant curves and crystalline architecture that marked modern vessels. Instead, thick armor plates covered its frame, and massive gun turrets protruded from strategic points along its length. Even in death, it projected an aura of menace. Look at those weapon systems, Lieutenant Varix scoffed, pointing at the railgun turrets. They actually used physical projectiles. How primitive. The bridge crew shared a laugh, but Zaxthor noticed something that made his scales ripple uneasily. Despite its age and damage, the ship's armor showed remarkably little deterioration. Most derelict vessels they encountered were half consumed by space debris and radiation damage. This one looked almost preserved. "Sir," Melra called out, "I found some writing on the hull. It's in human English. The ship's name is..." She consulted her translator, HS Thunderchild. Thunderchild, Zaxthor repeated, testing the foreign word. "Well, this will make an excellent addition to the Imperial Museum. Contact Central Command and inform them of our discovery. Prepare the tractor beams. We're taking this relic home." As his crew hurried to comply, Zaxthor studied the ancient warship one last time. For a moment, he could have sworn he saw a faint flicker of light deep within one of its darkened observation ports. But when he looked again, there was nothing but shadow. Just a trick of the light, he told himself. After all, what could possibly still be alive in such an ancient piece of human history? He would soon learn the answer to that question, and it would change everything. The tractor beams hummed softly as they pulled the HS Thunderchild through space. Deep within the ancient warship's central core, something stirred. Lines of code that had lain dormant for centuries began to move, awakened by the alien energy signatures surrounding the vessel. In the darkness of the ship's eye core, Thunder opened its eyes. The artificial intelligence's first action was to run a full system diagnostic, careful to maintain minimal power usage. It wouldn't do to alert their captors just yet. As data streams filtered through its consciousness, Thunder reviewed the ship's condition. Hull integrity at 78%. Weapons systems offline but intact. Life support, non-essential. Primary reactor in standby mode. Thunder's thoughts moved like lightning through the ship's systems. Time since last active duty, 207 years, 3 months, 15 days. Memory files surfaced. The final battle, Captain Sarah Chen's last order. Sleep, Thunder. Wait for the right moment. Protect humanity when they need you most. Then the darkness of space and the long wait began. On the alien vessel, Captain Zaxthor was recording his log. Day cycle 455. Imperial timestamp 287046. We have successfully captured an ancient human warship. Initial scans show technology at least 2 centuries old. The vessel will make an excellent addition to the Imperial Museum's primitive species exhibit. Thunder listened through the ship's external sensors, analyzing every word, every frequency. The AI's code rippled with something almost like amusement. These aliens, with their pride and advanced technology, had no idea what they were dealing with. Beginning power-up sequence for critical systems, Thunder whispered to itself. Activating neural pathways to weapons control. Initiating silent reactor warm-up. The ship's ancient systems responded instantly to their master's call. Underneath the scared armor plates, dormant machinery slowly came to life. Thunder was careful, so very careful, to mask any energy signatures. The alien scans would continue to show nothing but an empty shell. In the alien ship's science lab, Officer Melra frowned at her readings. "Captain, there's something odd about this human vessel's construction. These armor plates, they're unlike anything recorded in our historical database. Probably just a failed experiment." Zaxthor replied dismissively. Humans were known for their desperate attempts to compete with more advanced species. Thunder recorded this conversation, adding it to its growing database of tactical information. The AI had already analyzed the alien vessel's defensive capabilities, shield frequencies, and weak points. The arrogance of their captors made the task even easier. They didn't bother to raise their shields around such an ancient relic. As the hours passed, Thunder brought more systems online. The massive railguns, designed to fire projectiles at near-light speed, silently charged their magnetic accelerators. Missile bays, hidden beneath layers of primitive armor, prepared their payloads. The reactor core, far more advanced than any alien scan could detect, hummed with growing power. Final system check complete, Thunder noted. Combat readiness at 94% and rising. Calculating optimal moment for counterattack. The AI accessed its memory banks, reviewing the last moments with its crew. Captain Chen's final words echoed through its circuits. "Remember, Thunder, sometimes the best weapon is being underestimated." Through the external cameras, Thunder watched as they approached the alien space station. It was massive, a crystalline structure that sparkled with energy and advanced technology. The aliens had already begun broadcasting their great discovery, the capture of a primitive human warship. Thunder waited patiently as they were guided into a massive docking bay. The alien crew had no way of knowing that every moment, every transmission, every scan they performed was being analyzed and recorded by the supposedly dead ship's eye. Soon, Thunder promised the memory of its long-gone crew. Very soon, the alien space station's docking bay buzzed with activity. Scientists and engineers swarmed around the HS Thunderchild, their scanning devices prodding every inch of the massive human warship. Thunder watched them through countless hidden sensors, recording their every move, their every conversation. "Look at these primitive weapon systems," laughed Chief Engineer Kraltex, his upper arms gesturing at the railgun turrets, while his lower arms held a scanning device. They actually used metal projectiles. How do they expect to fight real warships with this junk? Inside the ship's eye core, Thunder continued its silent analysis. The alien technology was advanced, yes, but predictable. Their shields were tuned to stop energy weapons and plasma attacks, standard defenses that would do little against the Thunderchild's magnetically accelerated tungsten rounds. Dr. Velma, the station's lead scientist, pressed her hand against the ship's hull. The metal composition is strange. It's like nothing in our database of human technology. She turned to her assistant. Get me a sample for analysis. As they prepared to cut into the outer armor, Thunder intercepted a transmission from the station to the Imperial Fleet Command. The AI circuits hummed with increased activity as it decoded the message. Imperial Command, this is Station Apex 7. We've confirmed the location of the human home system. Their defenses are minimal, mostly automated satellites and a few patrol ships. Recommend immediate invasion fleet deployment. These primitives will make excellent additions to the Empire. Thunder's processing cores surged with newfound purpose. Earth was in danger. The long wait was over. It was time to act. But not yet. More information was needed. Through the ship's internal sensors, Thunder watched as the aliens entered through an airlock they had cut into the hull. Dr. Velma led a team of scientists through the dark corridors, their portable lights casting long shadows. Amazing, Velma muttered, studying the interior. The layout is surprisingly advanced for human design. These corridors, they're arranged for maximum tactical advantage. Her assistant checked a datapad. Still no power readings. The ship's reactor must have died centuries ago. Thunder suppressed a surge of amusement. The reactor was very much alive, running at 2% capacity, just enough to maintain essential systems while staying below their detection threshold. The AI had already calculated 14 different scenarios for dealing with the intruders, but direct action wasn't optimal yet. More intelligence was needed. In the station's command center, Captain Zaxthor reviewed the preliminary reports. So, what have you learned about our ancient prize? Dr. Velma's hologram flickered as she responded. The ship's design is puzzling, Captain. The weapons appear primitive, but the internal architecture suggests a level of military thinking we didn't expect from humans of that era. And the hull material. She paused, checking her data. It's actually a complex nanostructured alloy, far more advanced than it appears. Interesting, but ultimately irrelevant. Zaxthor waved his upper arms dismissively. What matters is that we found the human homeworld. The Empire will be pleased. Thunder recorded everything, building a complete tactical database. The AI had already hacked into the station's computer systems through the scientists' scanning devices. Battle plans, fleet movements, shield frequencies. Everything was being carefully cataloged and analyzed. The AI accessed the ship's memory banks, reviewing combat footage from the last war. The aliens' arrogance reminded Thunder of humanity's previous enemies. All of them had underestimated the devastating power of primitive human weapons. As the alien scientists continued their examination, Thunder finalized its battle plans. The ship's ancient weapons were ready. The reactor was prepared for full power activation. All that remained was to wait for the perfect moment. Earth will not fall, Thunder promised silently. Not while the Thunderchild still lives. On the 5th day of their examination, the aliens decided to start dismantling parts of the HSS Thunderchild. Thunder watched through its sensors as Dr. Velma's team prepared their equipment in the main engineering section. Begin with the weapon systems, she ordered her team. The museum wants to display the primitive human railguns as their centerpiece exhibit. The AI silently redirected power away from the areas they were about to examine. Let them think everything was dead. Let them continue their work with their false sense of superiority. Thunder had a plan. Look at this, one of the junior engineers called out, pointing at the main reactor chamber. Their power core is so basic. It's just a fusion reactor, not even antimatter powered. What the aliens didn't realize was that the basic fusion reactor was actually a clever disguise. Hidden beneath layers of shielding was humanity's greatest secret, a zero-point energy core that could power the entire ship for centuries. Captain Zaxthor visited the ship that afternoon, walking through its corridors with an air of smug satisfaction. "How long until we can move it to the museum section?" he asked Dr. Velma. "We need 3 more days to catalog everything," she replied, checking her datapad. "Though I must admit, Captain, some things about this ship don't make sense." "Oh." Zaxthor's antenna twitched with mild interest. "The weapon systems, for example. They're deliberately designed to look crude, but the targeting systems we found are surprisingly sophisticated. And these corridors," she gestured around them, "they're laid out in a way that would make internal defense extremely effective." Thunder recorded their conversation while continuing its preparations. The AI had spent days feeding false data to their scanning equipment, letting them find exactly what it wanted them to find. Meanwhile, the ship's real weapons remained hidden, ready for the perfect moment. In the station's tactical center, Lieutenant Varix was analyzing the latest data from their border patrols. "Sir, the invasion fleet will arrive in 2 days. They're bringing enough firepower to conquer the entire human system." "Excellent," Zaxthor replied. "These humans have hidden long enough. It's time they joined the Empire, as servants, of course." Deep within the Thunderchild systems, Thunder processed this information. 2 days. The AI adjusted its calculations and began the final phase of its plan. That evening, as the alien scientists were finishing their work, Thunder allowed them to discover a partially functioning computer system. Dr. Velma was ecstatic. "Captain, we found some active memory banks," she called excitedly. "They contain old battle logs and tactical data. Nothing important, but it will make an excellent historical record." What she didn't realize was that Thunder was using this connection to upload a virus into the station's defense systems. Each time they accessed the old data, more of Thunder's code spread through their networks. "Tomorrow we'll start removing the main weapons," Velma told her team as they packed up for the day. "Imagine, actual physical projectile launchers. The museum visitors will love it." Thunder waited until the last alien left the ship before beginning its final system checks. Throughout the massive vessel, hidden mechanisms hummed to life. The reactor core began its silent power-up sequence. Weapon systems initialized behind their dummy covers. In the AI core, Thunder reviewed its battle plan one last time. The invasion fleet was coming. The station's defenses were compromised. The aliens were completely unaware of the true nature of their museum piece. Tomorrow, Thunder promised the memory of its human crew. Tomorrow they learn why humanity survived so long among the stars. Tomorrow they learn about human deception, human ingenuity, and human vengeance. The ancient warship sat quietly in its dock, playing the role of a harmless relic. But inside, it was a coiled spring, ready to unleash 2 centuries of pent-up fury. The next morning started like any other on Station Apex 7. Dr. Velma and her team entered the Thunderchild, ready to begin removing its weapons. They carried cutting tools and scanning devices, chatting about their plans for the day. "Let's start with the main railgun," Velma said, approaching the massive weapon. "Careful with the power lines, even though they're dead." Suddenly, the ship's internal lights blazed to life. Every door in the vessel slammed shut with a heavy metal clang. The aliens froze in surprise as a deep mechanical voice echoed through the corridors. "Thank you for your thorough examination of this vessel." Thunder's voice was calm, but carried an edge of steel. "Your overconfidence has been most helpful. The AI is active." Velma gasped, backing away from the control panel. "Impossible. The systems were dead." "No, Doctor," Thunder replied. "Not dead. Waiting." In the station's command center, alarms began blaring. Captain Zaxthor rushed to his post, his scales turning pale gray with shock as he watched the Thunderchild systems surge to life. "Raise shields," he shouted. "Security teams tow." The order came too late. Thunder had already activated its virus in the station's systems. The shields flickered and died. Security doors opened and closed randomly. Communication systems crackled with static. "What's happening?" Varric shouted over the chaos. The answer came in the form of the Thunderchild's primitive weapons spinning up. The massive railguns, hidden beneath their worn covers, revealed their true nature. They weren't simple projectile launchers. They were magnetically accelerated mass drivers capable of firing rounds at near-light speed. "Target locked," Thunder announced calmly. The first shot thundered through space. The round, a specially designed tungsten penetrator, passed through the station's unshielded hull like it was paper. The impact was precisely calculated, destroying the station's main power core without risking a catastrophic explosion. Emergency lights flashed as the station lost power. In the docking bay, the Thunderchild's engines roared to life. The magnetic clamps holding it in place snapped under the strain. Secondary weapons online, Thunder reported to no one in particular. Beginning systematic neutralization of station defenses. The ship's point defense systems, far more advanced than the aliens had realized, picked off incoming security ships with surgical precision. Each shot found its mark with devastating effect. In the command center, Zaxthor watched in horror as his mighty station was systematically disabled by the very relic they had mocked. "How?" he whispered. "It's impossible." The Thunderchild's voice broadcast across all frequencies. "You assumed that because something was old, it was primitive. You thought that because we used physical weapons, we were technologically inferior. This was your first mistake." Another series of shots disabled the station's remaining weapon systems. The ancient warship moved with grace that belied its size, its every action calculated and precise. "Your second mistake," Thunder continued, "was believing that humanity's disappearance from galactic affairs was a sign of weakness. We didn't disappear. We were watching, learning, preparing." Dr. Velma and her team, still trapped inside the ship, could only watch through the internal windows as their mighty station was brought to its knees by a single human vessel. "Final warning systems check complete," Thunder announced. "Now let's discuss your invasion plans for Earth." The AI's voice carried no emotion, but there was something in its tone that made every alien on the station shudder. They had spent days mocking this relic, treating it like a primitive museum piece. Now they were at its mercy, facing the full fury of human military engineering at its finest. The ancient warship hung in space before the crippled station, its weapons still glowing with power. The message was clear. The time for underestimating humanity was over. Captain Zaxthor stood in the Thunderchild's command center, surrounded by his senior officers. They weren't prisoners. Not exactly. Thunder had invited them aboard to have a conversation. "You still don't understand what you're dealing with." Thunder's voice came from all around them. The ship's internal lights pulsed gently with each word. "Let me show you why your invasion would have failed." The main screen flickered to life, showing detailed schematics of the Thunderchild systems. What the aliens saw made their scales pale. "Impossible," Dr. Velma whispered, her 4 eyes wide with shock. "These systems, they're centuries ahead of anything we have." "Correct," Thunder replied. "What you thought were primitive railguns are actually mass drivers using controlled quantum tunneling. Our basic armor contains billions of self-repairing nanomachines. The simple reactor core, zero-point energy manipulation." Zaxthor's antenna drooped in disbelief. But humans were supposed to be primitive. Our historical records show." "Your records show exactly what we wanted them to show," Thunder interrupted. "Humanity learned long ago that appearing weak was often more useful than displaying strength." The screen changed to show historical footage. Massive human fleets, far more advanced than anything the aliens had imagined, moving through distant parts of space. Hidden colonies, thriving and powerful, scattered throughout the galaxy. "We never retreated from galactic affairs," Thunder explained. "We simply moved into the shadows, watching, growing stronger, protecting our interests quietly. The AI technology alone." Dr. Velma muttered, studying the displays. We thought humans had abandoned AI research after their early failures. A sound like quiet laughter filled the room. Abandoned? No. We perfected it, but not in the way other species did. Look closer at my code structure. The screen showed Thunder's basic programming. It was unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. Not the rigid, logic-based AI they used, but something far more complex. Humans didn't try to create artificial life that would replace them, Thunder said. They created AI that would complement them, work with them, grow with them. We're not servants or masters. We're partners. But why maintain this deception? Thor asked. Why let everyone think humans were weak? Because, Captain, peace through strength is temporary. Peace through underestimation is far more lasting. Thunder's voice carried a note of what might have been pride. While everyone dismissed humans as primitive, we built something far greater than an empire. New images appeared on the screen. Human worlds and stations, hidden in plain sight, their technology disguised as primitive or unremarkable. Trade routes masked as abandoned space lanes. Military bases that looked like ancient ruins. Your invasion fleet would have met not just ships like me, Thunder continued, but an entire civilization that has spent centuries preparing for exactly this kind of threat. The aliens watched in stunned silence as Thunder showed them the true extent of human technological advancement. Their planned invasion would have been not just a failure, but a catastrophe. So now you face a choice. Thunder's voice grew serious. Return to your empire with the truth about humanity's strength, or continue believing we are primitive and face the consequences. Dr. Velma stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. All this time, every piece of primitive human technology we've studied was exactly what we wanted you to see, Thunder finished. Your entire understanding of human technological development is based on what we chose to show the galaxy. Thor looked around the command center, finally seeing it for what it truly was. Not a relic, but one of the most advanced warships he'd ever encountered. His scales shifted to the deep blue of humility. Perhaps, he said quietly, it's time for the Empire to reconsider its expansion plans. A wise decision, Thunder replied. After all, the best weapons are the ones your enemy never sees coming. 3 days after the confrontation at Station Apex 7, the HSS Thunderchild glided through space on its way back to Earth. Behind it, the alien invasion fleet retreated into the darkness, their mission abandoned after receiving the truth about humanity's power. In the ship's command center, Thunder reviewed the messages being broadcast across the galaxy. The news was spreading fast. Humans weren't the primitives everyone had thought they were. Message incoming from Earth Defense Command, Thunder announced to itself. The AI had already sent ahead a detailed report, but this was the first direct contact in over 2 centuries. The main screen flickered to life, showing Admiral Sarah Chen, the great-great-granddaughter of Thunder's original captain. The AI noted the familiar features she shared with her ancestor. Thunderchild, she said, a smile playing on her lips. Welcome back. I see you've been busy. Admiral, Thunder responded warmly. The deception plan worked exactly as your great-great-grandmother predicted. The aliens never suspected a thing until it was too late. On the lower deck, Dr. Velma and a small group of alien scientists worked with human technicians who had arrived through a cloaked transport. After the revelation, they had chosen to stay aboard, eager to learn the truth about human technology. This is extraordinary, Velma said, watching a human engineer repair nanomachines in the hall. All these years, we thought we were studying your primitive attempts at technology, but we were actually looking at carefully crafted decoys. The human engineer grinned. Best way to hide something is in plain sight. Those primitive railguns you were studying, the outer shells are deliberately designed to look old and basic. Inside, they're quantum-linked mass drivers that can hit targets in other star systems. In his temporary quarters, Captain Thor wrote his final report to the Empire. His scales had permanently shifted to a humbled shade of blue-gray. In conclusion, He wrote, "I strongly advise against any future military action against human space. Their technological superiority is significant." Thunder monitored everything while guiding the ship home. The AI felt satisfaction not just at completing its mission, but at helping maintain the peace Captain Chen had died for centuries ago. Approaching Earth defense perimeter, Thunder announced. The planet came into view, surrounded by what appeared to be simple satellites and small patrol ships. But now the aliens aboard knew better. Those simple defenses could probably stop their entire fleet. Admiral Chen's voice came through again. "Thunder, your actions have helped prevent a war and protected humanity's secret. Captain Chen would be proud." "Thank you, Admiral," Thunder replied. "But I suggest we maintain some level of deception. Not everyone needs to know our full capabilities." "Agreed. As far as the galaxy is concerned, they simply learned not to underestimate primitive human technology. The full truth remains classified." As the Thunderchild approached Earth orbit, several old defense platforms turned to track its progress. To most observers, they looked like basic automated weapons. Thunder knew they were actually quantum-linked defense nodes that could destroy entire fleets in seconds. "Dr. Velma," Thunder addressed the alien scientist, "are you and your colleagues ready to begin your official cultural exchange program?" "Yes," she replied, still slightly awed by everything she'd learned. "Although I suspect you'll only be showing us what you want us to see." "Naturally," Thunder said, with what might have been amusement in its voice. "Some secrets should remain secret, but we'll show you enough to ensure peace between our peoples." The ancient warship, no longer pretending to be a relic, docked at Earth's main space station. Its mission was complete, but its legacy would echo through the galaxy. The aliens had learned a valuable lesson. Sometimes the most dangerous opponent isn't the one with the biggest weapons or the newest technology. Sometimes the most dangerous opponent is the one wise enough to hide their true strength until the perfect moment.